Howdy, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm David.
Welcome to the show. We are on our very last episode of our Halloween horror series, which we know seeped a little bit into November. But you know what? That's okay. Because, scary movies don't just happen in October.
Nope.
And this one doesn't really
It's true. That's true. So we're wrapping up with Andrew's pick of the week, which is Misery, the Rob Reiner film starring James Caan and Kathy Bates, based on the Stephen King novel. Andrew, why did you pick this movie?
Because for starters, I absolutely love Kathy Bates in this movie. And I was reading this book. I bought this book for my birthday because Stephen King and I share a birthday. And both of our birthdays are on September 21st. And I decided one year I was going to buy the book Misery. Well, I have not seen the movie. I had not seen the movie yet. So I'm reading this novel and I don't get halfway through the novel. And it's terrifying me. It is literally terrifying me. And I saw this movie for the first time a couple of years ago, and it was downright compelling. And there's much more in the way of horror than just blood, gore, scary, or jump scares. It's more along the lines of, when you're confined to yourself, and you're being held against your will, what are you going to do in order to stay alive? And for me, this was just a sheer mountain of those testaments right there, because you have James Caan, who is Paul Sheldon, the writer, who can't get out of his own hole, and his legs are broken, so he's physically can't do anything, and he's locked in a room with the number one fan, psycho stalker Annie Wilkes, who is played to perfection by Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
I think it is all around terrifying. And at the same time, it's just a very, very brilliantly written movie, a well-directed film, and above all else, incredibly acted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And it's one of Stephen King's better efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was looking it up, and the book only came out in 1987. This movie came out in 1990. So very quickly, this got shipped to into the movie making business.
It was quite a turnaround.
Definitely. Hang on one second.
Get it out. Get the sneeze out. That's live TV. People be sneezing on camera. But I'll talk about what I thought about it. So I hadn't seen it in a really long time when we rewatched it for this. So there was a lot of stuff I'd forgotten about. And I found that I really did enjoy it still. It is very good. It holds up pretty well over the years, especially those performances. Kathy Bates is next level. She, won the Oscar for Best Actress in for this role. So, which I saw made it the only Stephen King adaptation to win an Oscar, which is fun. So, but not to downplay James Caan either, who is also very good with what he does with his role as this kind of this writer who finds himself almost in a mystery of his own making. It's like a page right out of his own books, which I enjoy. And he even, as you go along, finds ways to try to play into it to gain the upper hand on Annie. And that whole dynamic. It's almost like a cat and mouse, spy versus spy type thing. Toward the end, as he's trying to hide knives and trick her out of the house by getting paper and whatnot. So I really liked it. I thought it was really fun. It's a different kind of scary. You know, I don't think, especially when it comes to Stephen King's film adaptations, I think people typically think, you know, really gross, gory ghost demon things, but this one is not non-violent, but you know, the most horrifying stuff in this movie happens just off screen. You know, the sledgehammer to the legs and whatnot.
Oof.
Thankfully, we don't have to see that. If that movie was made today, we would. They would show us.
Oh yeah. It'd be full on bone out. This one relies a lot more on the psychological aspect, and it doesn't really waste a lot of time. You know, it's honestly about 30 minutes in where the other shoe sort of drops, you know, like it's kind of like you're thinking, okay, she seems somewhat trustworthy. And then it's like, boom, immediately she's not. It's kind of and it's not a movie that relies on a lot of changing things. It's mostly 1 to 2 locations. The cast is fairly small, and
I'm sorry, my internet dropped for just a second. My bad.
Oh, it's okay. The cast is fairly small. It doesn't get bogged down with a lot of unnecessary storylines, and like you said, the performances are just are good enough to carry what could have been a very slow film, because there's not a lot of action. There's not a lot of chasing. It's all very suspenseful. It's all, you know, like I said, contained to like really one spot, and you really feel for Paul Sheldon. You know, he may not be the nicest guy in the world, for who knows, but you're like, man, this is a really bad situation. And you know what's funny is they foreshadow him getting caught, but he doesn't get caught right away. They allow for a second foul up, which I thought was really clever, because anytime you guys know this, anytime a camera shot lingers on something for a little bit, you know that's going to come back into play. And so there's a moment early on where you think, oh, he's going to get caught now, and he doesn't. And at first I was like, oh, well, that feels like a mistake then, but it wasn't. It was thinking ahead. And I don't know if that's strictly from the novel or if that's something they came up with, but it's brilliant. So yeah, you know, it was really good, really well shot. There was some cool stuff going on, and I think this might have been, I don't know. I'm trying to think if this was like my favorite of the 4 we've done or not. I think it's up there though.
Okay.
I feel bad for poor Buster. You know, this poor old man trying to do the right thing gets it hard right in the back.
Pretty much.
This guy hasn't seen a crime in 38 years, and he's just like sitting there. He gets a phone call, missing person. Oh yeah, I'll look into that. Takes his time with it a little bit, but he's on it. Does some real detective work. Takes a while, but he's doing it.
Oh, he almost gets away without noticing.
It would not be a Stephen King movie if someone didn't have to go to a library news section and fiddle through old newspapers. So we did get that scene, and everything worked. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of what I say. Like it's a movie with a body count of 2. You know, It's not like there's a ton of people that die in this movie, and so one of the people that gets it is the guy doing the right thing, and that's always kind of tough to see.
Yeah, no mercy for him either.
What I like about this movie in general is how much it kind of means to Stephen King himself. And that's one reason why I chose it to begin with, because like the 80s were very, very drug fueled for Stephen King. and and he was battling a really, really bad cocaine addiction. Like his cocaine addiction was very out of control. He wrote the book Misery. In fact, hold on. Before I get too far along, there's a book out there, I forget which one, that Stephen King wrote that he does not remember writing because of his addiction. He has no recollection of it. He wrote Misery as a way of describing that struggle of overcoming addiction. And Annie Wilkes was his addiction.
That makes
and
sense.
Paul Sheldon was Stephen King. And so he's wrestling with it. He's just like, do I keep going on, or what do I do? And the snow is kind of reminiscent because the snow is white. So I mean, it's obviously some like hidden symbology in there, but also it's just like what you said just a second ago. It's one of the few Stephen King novels where horror doesn't take precedent in the form of like a monster. Like human beings are just as bad as monsters themselves. Human beings can be monsters. And Annie Wilkes was definitely a monster.
Yeah, what a good, this is something that's been present in our society for a long time. But what a great little take on toxic fandom, which is what it's kind of expanded to today. This is a story of a woman who becomes obsessed with a particular author's work, specifically a series about a single character. But fandom today is kind of very toxic. Obviously not to the point of everyone's kidnapping their favorite stars, but I just like the metaphor you can find in there of a fandom taking in something it loves and forcing it to write what it wants the story to be, not what the author wants.
Yeah, demanding it where they want it to go.
I want it my way, not the creator's way. I think that's what helps the movie stand the test of time. As long as that continues to exist, which obviously it will, because that's just human nature. This movie will be relatable, I think.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those movies that has a timeless element to it. Obviously some things are a little dated from the typewriter to,
of course,
some of the those types of things, but it's not important at the end of the day, those more dated aspects, because the human condition within it is totally relatable today. And Annie Wilkes' character is so well-rounded, because she's not just crazy and just outright like, hey, I'm gonna be crazy right away, and that's me. She's smart. She's very clever, and she doesn't sort of just lay everything out there right away. She knows to take her time. She knows to not spring traps when it's too early. And she doesn't get fooled too much by James Caan, even though he tries to slowly kind of, work on her sympathies and work on her interests. And it works a little bit, but she's very quick to say, I don't trust you 100%. I love you, but I know what she's very aware of the situation she has him in. It's not like she's under some delusion. She's very clearly not under some delusion that what she's doing is okay. So she's very ready for him to try to escape. And
right.
The moments of him trying to escape are some of the most intense, because you're thinking like, go. Oh, shut that door. For a movie that I was well aware of, I've never seen it before, but I've seen it parodied. I've seen it referenced. I've seen it cited for different things. Right. It was actually surprisingly, I'm glad that the movie itself still lived up. It had plenty of anticipation and plenty of surprises. It hadn't been ruined for me by the metaverse. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
The metaverse.
Good deal.
Because I've had that. I've had movies that have been completely ruined for me because of friends telling the jokes or friends talking about it or TV shows referencing it. That was me with Anchorman. Finally saw Anchorman. I was like, none of these jokes are landing because I
heard all the jokes.
I've heard everybody tell these jokes for the last 5 years.
Yeah. That makes sense, because you want to maintain the mystery, but sometimes, especially in today's world, it's just very hard to do.
It is.
It can be tough.
I agree.
It can certainly be tough. Well, what else did we think about old Misery? Any favorite scenes come to mind? Oh, you know what? I'm answering my own question. This isn't really a scene, but I just have to say how much I enjoyed some of Annie's dialogue. She had two things she liked to say a lot, which was cock-a-doodie, which just makes me laugh. And she kept calling him Mr. Man, which
Mr. Man
just made me uncomfortable. It was like she was chiding a child, like, no, Mr. Man. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like that's a very like late 80s, early 90s.
Probably.
Mr. Man or whatever. Maybe it's even older than that. Maybe it's even older than that because maybe it's from her upbringing. But yeah, cock-a-doodie, which infamously there's an episode of Family Guy, which is like a very like not shot for shot because it's like 20 minutes, but like, references all this, and Stewie says cock-a-doodie in it, and it was great to kind of hear that come back up because it's such a strange word.
It is a strange word. Well, and there's a part where she gets really upset and is yelling at Paul for having his characters curse, and she goes on this diatribe, and she says some like curses that I've never even heard before. They didn't feel like they were bad. They just sounded so old and weird.
Yeah, they sounded dated.
Yeah.
I think Annie is a quotable character in a really weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you can see why she won an award because it's like she really Kathy Bates just lives the character scene to scene. It feels so natural, everything she's doing. Whereas I feel like,
there's very little buildup in her outburst either. It's kind of like she's suddenly angry.
Yeah, she just snapped. There's a great moment where she's looking out the window, right? She's looking out the window and she says, after my husband died, I thought I was going crazy there for a minute. And I just kind of said out loud, I'm glad that didn't happen. And got a good laugh from the wife. But I was expecting James Caan to be like, well, glad to see that didn't happen. Clearly, if I were James Caan, I would have been probably a lot meaner, I think, especially after the leg breaking scene, which is not my favorite scene. But let's face it, that's probably the most memorable scene from this, right? The hobbling.
Yeah.
Okay, here's I had to find it. Here's the quote that Annie says when she's yelling about the curses. She says, "The swearing, Paul, there, I said it. It has no nobility. What do you think I say when I go to the feed store in town? Oh, now, Wally, give me a bag of that effing pig feed and 10 pounds of that bitchly cow corn. And the bank, do I tell Mrs. Bollinger, oh, here's one bastard of a check. Give me some of your Christing money." What does any of that even mean?
She's just putting it in where this is clearly a woman who doesn't curse. So she's just putting them in wherever.
It feels right.
She doesn't use these words. It's great. It's it shows that there is like a weird warped level of, oh gosh, innocence isn't the right word, but naivete, I guess. There's like even though she's done some bad things in her past, there's still kind of a very repressed little girl who's in this, and she has found her outlets are his books and violence,
Yeah. I also laughed out loud when she said, "This whole house is going to be full of romance. Oh, I'm going to put on my Liberace records."
Yeah.
That made me burst out laughing.
Yeah.
In a good way, I think. She's just.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She's such a weirdo, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's I thought about so I want to bring up this comparison. I thought about movies that are similar to this and how the advancing of time and technology and styles have changed how the pacing of a movie like this goes. The closest I could think of recently was 10 Cloverfield Lane, where you have somebody sort of taken against their will and not being given the full story, and you don't know if you can trust the person, and how they handled the slow burn of that versus here, because like I said, they get it's very quick. The situation is made quick very clearly, and then it's just like an hour of trying to get away from this woman. So I think it's such a fascinating idea, the hostage, if you will, the hostage film. Not one you get very many movies of.
No.
And did you guys get worried for a second that when at the end when he saw her with the cake, that was really her?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it crossed my mind. But I thought, I don't know, she looked real dead.
I know, that's what I thought too. I was like, she looked very dead, and she doesn't have the word misery planted in her forehead now. So I was like, please don't be her. That's going to be awkward.
Hey, the lady with her cake with the cake was the second #1 fan.
I know. I think anybody who said #1 fan to me after that experience, I'd be like,
you better not be.
I'm gone.
You better not be.
Let me ask you guys this. So we've watched a lot of movies. We have a lot of fandoms.
Oh yeah. Was
there a book series that you guys would you consider not kidnapping anybody over, but like, is there any book series that you would be like, wow, if I I really want to meet the author and I want to talk, I want to, is anything like that, like, or maybe even a TV show, or got you to that level of overthinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have had, a dinner with J.K. Rowling or something at a certain point in time. Perhaps less so today, but
probably circa 2011.
Yeah, before she kind of muddied the universe a bit, the Harry Potter universe and just other things. But who else? I don't know. There's not a lot of authors that I'm like that big on,
Yeah.
For me, I think it was and kind of will always be, gosh, man, I'm trying to think of like even my own question, because like it's like the obsession. Like I got so angry, like the kidnapping thing that happens before she finds out how the last book ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretty pissed about the How I Met Your Mother ending, and I might have kidnapped somebody over that. You never know. I'd
do it again.
I'm kidding, of course. I was so frustrated by that, and so like
I agree with that.
You change things.
You fix it all.
No, you had to fix it all. Just cut the show off 40 seconds early. Like the last 40 seconds.
That's true. That I mean, I could do a whole podcast about that, but I won't.
Someday.
Someday
we can do that.
I would do.
Yes, oh yeah, what would you do, Andrew?
I would want to sit down with J.R.R. Tolkien.
He's dead.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about any author.
Oh, if he were alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
That and Mary Shelley.
Time.
What would you say to J.R.R. Tolkien?
I would say, how do you create a universe? Like, how do you create a universe where, based on experience?
He says, I don't know what you're talking about, Andrew. I didn't create anything. It's Middle Earth is all real if you believe.
That's true. But no, I would want to sit down with him. I would want to sit down with him and maybe if Jane Austen were around, I'd want to say, hey, take a look at all these people that you influenced, and what do you have to think about that?
I did read a review, like a user review somewhere, with someone saying they wanted to do this. It was like me, but with George R.R. Martin to finish the damn Game of Thrones books.
Right.
You're gonna sit there and write till it's done.
You're gonna do it. I'm gonna watch you do it. And then I'm gonna read your work.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell you if it's not good enough. Yeah, I've never really had that attachment because usually I'm content to just accept the story as it is. You know, that's how I was with a lot of shows and books when I was a kid. I just accepted it for what it was. If a couple that I thought should be together didn't get together, I didn't care. I didn't put them together.
Yeah.
Well, that's not entirely true, but it is mostly true. You know, I don't get really upset about those kind of things, but it does happen. I've been on plenty of Reddit threads and Tumblr blogs or whatever, and people get obsessed with, and it doesn't matter what it is, anything. There are people who get obsessed with how fan fictions end.
Right.
Oh yeah, the fandoms are strong. I mean, especially I think in the world today, because you've got, I can't even get it out. Obviously, Harry Potter, big fandom. There's still a huge Twilight fandom. Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Star Wars, you name it. These people build these worlds or expand these worlds kind of in their own imaginations and through fan fiction and all that. And so it can easily happen. I mean, I keep going back to Star Wars just because it's what I know the most about. But you know, when the Disney Lucasfilm purchase happened and they made the announcement that they were going to remove all of the extended universe stuff from the canon, that upset some people because that became canon to them. So you start changing with fans' expectations or understandings of what, you know, their beloved franchise is, you're going to hit some problems.
Oh, yeah. You're going to strike some nerves.
That's also another podcast.
Yeah.
But let's move on. We're running low here on time. We don't want to spend too much time. So how do we do box office wise with this movie?
Well, this movie opened up on the weekend of November 30th of 1990. So that's just post Thanksgiving, just after Thanksgiving. That's
just shortly a few months after I was born.
Yeah, right. This movie is almost exactly 31 years old. So it debuted in the number 2 spot with $10 million, and you're going to be wondering, like, well, this seemed like it was a pretty big movie. What was number 1 that weekend? Well, unfortunately for Misery, it debuted in the 3rd week of Home Alone, which, as you guys know, ran rampant through the holiday weekend of 1990 and 1991. Home Alone was in its 3rd week and made $14.3 million, only dropping 30% in its previous week. Behind that was 3 Men and a Little Lady, a lesser-known sequel to 3 Men and a Baby, which I hope to one day have us do because, cheese and all that. And then number 4, you had Dances with Wolves, bringing in $7 million in its 4th week. And number 5, and also lesser, I think, my opinion, appreciated sequel, Predator 2, brought in $4.1 million in its 2nd weekend. So you got Home Alone, Misery, 3 Men and a Little Lady, Dances with Wolves, and Predator 2. I'll spare you the details of 1990 as a whole, but let's look at Stephen King's works adapted to film. What is the highest grossing film in the Stephen Kingiverse? Well, no surprise here. It is It Chapter 1 from 2017. And number 2, It Chapter 2 from 2019. We reviewed both those movies. You can see them.
Yes, we did.
On our podcast feed. Anyone want to guess the number 3 movie? Really quick. What do you think, Andrew?
The Green Mile?
Oh, yeah, nailed it. The Green Mile, bringing in $136 million back in 1999. And number 4, a surprise here for me, the movie 1408. Do you guys remember this?
I do remember it, yeah.
Wow.
That came out. That came out in 2007, brought in $71 million domestically. And at number 5, it still holds the spot, Misery, with $61 million total in its run. So Misery still holding a good spot on Stephen King's overalls. It's a good list. I mean, it's a decent list. A lot of Stephen King's movies Stephen King's movies are entertaining at the very least. Some of them don't get very good reviews. Hang on one second. I'll go ahead and defer to you guys for the letterbox game. I think Andrew leads it this week.
Okay. Well, Andrew, why don't you
Okay.
Yeah, pull it up. I think you won last time.
Sorry, my son was about to get into my dog's water bowl. He did.
No,
okay.
That's not for you, dude.
Rushing off the thing there. Sorry. He's yours. No, I got a boy for the rest of the show.
Hey.
Hey.
Who's here?
So,
how you doing, Nate?
Trying to guess here what I think. I want to say. I'm going to say 3.2 for my guess.
Josh, you're 3.2. David?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess at 3.6.
Okay, so David, you're 3.6. All right. The winner this week is David.
Yay.
The final rate is 3.9 from a total of 500. From a total of 540 fans. And looking at some of these reviews, they're actually they're funny as usual. This movie is me locking Quentin Tarantino in my apartment after his 10th movie, forcing him to write more.
No, thank you.
And yeah, there's one in French. Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, no, I easily give this movie a 4 stars.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it a 4 as well.
I'm gonna pull a Garrett with you, and I'm gonna one up you. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because I think it is practically perfect. I think that there's only a few things that I think would make it better, but I won't get into those right now.
That's fair enough. Okay, nice. So we got two 4s and a 4.5. That's probably going to round up to a 4.5, I'd imagine.
I think like a 4.2.
Something like that. Well, that finally wraps up our Halloween series here on the show. We've got some more stuff cooking for you though for the rest of the year before we kind of go on our little hiatus. Obviously, you got Christmas movies to look forward to. We'll be talking about those in December. A couple more new movies. Obviously, we'll be talking about Marvel's Eternals. So go watch that before you listen to the show. And just stick around because we got more stuff. We got more stuff for you in the next several weeks. So find us online, somanysequels.com. You can check all our links there and subscribe and follow us on social media. We'll see you next time.
Bye.